So you are going to buy flashlight. Good idea. Let me help you to be sure you'll get exactly what you need. My name is Alex and I've reviewed flashlights since 2015, so well, I know things, and I'm sure you'll know them as well after just watching or listening to this video. I will not waste your time and get down to topic. Just don't forget to subscribe my channel and click bell not to miss new reviews. Let's talk about brightness. What you need to understand: a bright, powerful flashlight doesn't mean it will have a good throw. It is clear that an increase in brightness will increase throw, but combination of optics and LED plays here the decisive role. 500 lumens in this case may give you good light at the range impossible for 50-100 lumens. The closest analogy is payload and speed in cars. So, with rare exception, I mean search flashlights, the flashlight has either good brightness or good throw, and such exceptions may disappoint you with dimensions of the models that combine these two characteristics. For example, these are on the right are Matiminka MT70 and Imaland RT70, and they aren't the biggest either. The more well-known is the brand, the more likely you will get what is declared in the specification, and vice versa. Buying a no-name flashlight, mostly sort of fires, ultra fires, trust fires, whatever fires. There's a bunch of such crap with aggressive and impressive names. Flashlight promises a simple deception. It has 500 lumens, well, right, 20 or 30 or 100 lumens, while big brands use a different trick. When you see all these impressive specifications and promo pics, the maximum brightness there is always for turbo mode. The first trick, mathematic. Companies often prefer to consider something like this. It consumes 5 amperes in turbo, we have 2500 mAh battery, so let's write half an hour runtime in turbo. That's cheating. The second trick is what you see in most of specifications. Runtime in turbo mode contains all the time after step down. So, if turbo mode really lasts for 1 minute and then step down drops it at 10% level, where it works for 2 hours more, specification will show you 2 hours of overall time. And in fairness, specifications of just few manufacturers indicates the brightness and runtime in turbo, and the same for the level to which the brightness falls from turbo. And here is what you should consider every time: the brightness in turbo must decrease. According to the time interval specified in the driver or thermoregulation triggering, this fall is called step down. Turbo by its name implies short-term work at maximum brightness. Here it may work at maximum like 1 minute before step down and you will have time to see everything around, or maybe like in case of Nightcore MH23 falls to 25% in couple of seconds. Well, technically there is declared brightness, but in fact you don't have it. Of course, Nightcore have lots of decent models with perfect stabilization, even better than you may expect, but MH23 has the most cheating turbo mode, just to illustrate you the situation. Normally the flashlight should sustain brightness to which it falls from the turbo. Take this brightness as a normal working one and judge what a flashlight can do just by this level. There are models that may get to 400 lumen from 1500 lumen, and models that may get to 1000 lumens from 1500 lumens. So if you see some crazy numbers of brightness, or if the seller in the offline hunting shop blows in your ears that the return from the light of the flashlight will be almost like the gun, just ask him about runtime of this crazy turbo brightness. I bet that you don't want to use something that lasts like photo blitz. Let me cheer you up a little bit. When it is about 1000 lumens, you will unlikely meet cheating. I'm talking about normal brands. Technology has reached such a level that this brightness can be achieved without the slightest problem, and the price is really affordable. Big brands cheat you with stabilization, and I will talk about it later. And for most usual needs, for home EDC needs, these 1000 lumens turbo and 600-700 lumens of constant light after step down is definitely enough. These numbers are not impressive nowadays, but believe me, they are really enough. This is enough to illuminate all the things around during evening walks, and the flashlight that is that bright will fit any pocket. It will give you enough light to work within range of like 50 yards. And the last trick is that some slide manufacturers state brightness without taking into account losses on optics, and then it is just like, well, at current of 4 amperes this LED should give like dozen hundreds lumens, let's write like that. But this is a specific case which I've mentioned here just to mean that they can do it. The second major topic is throw. What you need to understand. There's a throw and there's useful throw, at least for me. The trick here is that throw like brightness is measured according to a NCI standard. In best case, manufacturers may just make up numbers. So 500 yards of NCI range means that at this distance the flashlight will give a brightness of just 1 lumen. And what's the sense of such a brightness for real use? And it turns out that the really useful range can be noticeably less, like 350 yards, and it's like really 1/3 less normally. Therefore, in my reviews, I always try to single out useful range in 2 ways, where you get good details and brightness, and where you at least can distinguish school bus from the elephant. And given the resolution of the human eye and most situations when you need long-range light, if the flashlight illuminates well at a distance of 300-400 yards, this is enough. Light distribution. The better is throw, the less convenient light is for close-range work, and vice versa. In the vast majority of cases, range is achieved by combining a specific LED with a deep, smooth reflector, which focuses the whole light at the central point. The center is very bright, while sides are Bible black. Of course, there is also textured reflector, which is called orange peel. It dissolves light from center to sides. The result is such a picture. Here's an example of a long-range versus short-range flashlights. The light distribution is extremely affected by the type of LED and reflector size and sort of reflector, I mean orange peel or smooth reflector. So when everything else is equal, smooth reflector gives you more throw compared with orange peel one, and as I've said, it is less convenient for near-range work. A smaller LED, XHP35 or modern OSRAM models like white flat, will give you at the same brightness way more candelas than a large and bright one, for example XHP70. A simple example is to pump a gallon in second through a 1-inch hose and through 3-inch hose, which will does the longer jet. The domed LED, I mean with the silicon dome removed, will give you even more candelas, but will lose in brightness a little bit. Such LEDs are marked as HI, high intensity, and LED with the dome is marked as HD, high density. Right now, the best choice for a long thrower flashlight are XHP35, high intensity, and OSRAM, white flat. Relatively good XPL high. They will give you a good throw without being really bright and without draining battery really fast. And there is also SBT 90.2 LED, which is normally dedomed and around 60-100 lumens. Advantage of such LED is that being that bright, it gives you both throw and side light. Disadvantage is that it consumes really lot of energy, generates lot of heat, and costs really lot. There are some extremely long-range models, but carrying such giant flashlights is not convenient at all. But flashaholics always want to get extreme flashlights. They got it, well, I just got as well, but that doesn't mean you need the one. At a distance of about 300 yards, a powerful top-end long-throw flashlight will work at like 20-30% output, and some ordinary model will work like at 75%. Accordingly, the battery of latter one will discharge faster, but of course such a flashlight will cost way less. Just check below video for updated list of good budget long throwers. In the same housing and at the same brightness, a warmer light will have better penetration. Cold light perfectly reflects all the particles of dust and fog in air. And here we've come to the next part. Color temperature. It's useful here to study two words directly related to the topic. First one is bin. The LED bin is also the process and the result of sorting the LEDs into groups according to brightness and color temperature. Second one is tint, a shade of light inside one bin, greenish or slightly red. The most popular brand of LED, Cree, ranks them into 9 groups from 0 to 8. 0, 1, 2 cold, 3, 4, 5 neutral, 6, 7, 8 warm. Each group is somewhere within 500 kelvins, and there are additional subgroups A, B, C, D. The number indicates a tint. And actually, if you are not a flashaholic, then there is no point in bothering with bins and tints. Just find out that such a thing exists and call them cold, neutral and warm light. In fact, the most important thing to know about color temperature are, first, with rare exceptions, the warmer the light is, the lower the brightness. Manufacturers are hunting for large numbers in the specification, so in most cases they put a cold LED. Buyers are either not aware of the difference or have no choice. T6 and fake LEDs. Once upon a time there was good old Cree XML LED. It has been called T6. It was quite popular as it was quite bright for these ancient times. And of course it was cold light as well. And as it was widely used in almost any brand flashlight, manufacturers of no-name crap also started to mention it to attract ignorant potential buyers. And now you cannot find original XML T6, but these manufacturers of no-name crap just don't know about it and just follow the good tradition. So there is no such LED as LED T6. The brightness normally doesn't exceed 500 lumens and drops down quickly, as all these cheap no-name models doesn't have driver that can stabilize brightness. By the way, you also can find XHP 90, 100, 200, so whatever. But no, the most powerful LED that Cree as a manufacturer produces is XHP 70.2. If you see any larger number, that cuts the deal. And now we've got to a really significant point which I've already mentioned. It is stabilization. Stabilization is keeping brightness constant as battery power drops with discharge. If you buy a budget flashlight, then most likely the brightness will fall like that. However, in medium modes, 1% drop in 5 minutes is not so scary. The human eye will just not notice it at all and get used to this drop. Better flashlight is, more likely you get better, flatter runtime line at runtime chart, getting close to flat line of full brightness stabilization. I should mention that you can find expensive brand models without full stabilization, as well as inexpensive flashlights with full stabilization. Just check below video for my updated list of good models. I am far from being a fan of Phoenix and I criticize them in each review, but I must mention that this brand is the only one now that provides honest runtime chart on packages, so you can evaluate stabilization. That is really good. Thermoregulation is brightness control depending on the heating level of the flashlight. Mostly it relates to turbo mode, as high mode normally shouldn't heat flashlight to the point when trigger of thermoregulation activates. Sawtooth is a clear example of poor over-aggressive thermoregulation. The flashlight heats up, the brightness drops. After some time at this level, as flashlight gets cooled down, the brightness jumps up again. In situation of good thermoregulation with cooling, wind or forced fan cooling, the brightness in turbo mode lasts longer and then just go to a level between high and turbo mode, something intermediate, or just falls to the high mode where it keeps fully stabilized. With the same LED and in the same mode, a flashlight with a smooth reflector has better throw than the one with textured, and a deep reflector has better throw comparing to shallow one. Mostly that's how optic affects throw. And of course textured reflector will give you better side light comparing to smooth deep reflector of thrower. Though some big LED like XHP 70.2 will help to increase side light. Of course, you should also consider light distribution, as long thrower will be inconvenient for near-range use, and the models that have convenient light for near-range use require extremely brightness to have some throw. TIR optics mentioned here is the system of lens that controls the light distribution better way. Usually this optics is set to provide a nice blurry near light, though there is a specific TIR lens that is made to increase throw and keep flashlight in pocket size. Usually budget models have an easy access to insides, and you can modify the light by choosing appropriate TIR optics. And actually people who care about the availability of installation of such an optic already know what it is and how to install it, so they just don't need this video. And flashlight that you shouldn't mess with, zoomy. It has a lot of names, but the idea is the same, to give worst possible light. Sellers generously promise as much lumens and throw as they can imagine for all the different versions of this T6 and whatever they call XHP. It will be just some random crap. No normal light distribution. At the near end you've got a circle, and at the distant focal point you've got tiny square with veins. No normal heat sink, but this is compensated by the small brightness. There will be no more than 300-400 lumens in the T6 versions, and all these bigger versions are just mostly the same bright. And paying extra money for more powerful versions also makes no sense, because you've still got all these fake LEDs and you pay the price of normal flashlight. And what about throw? At the long focal point, this T6 illuminates as well as the cheapest pocket flashlight with the old XML2 at like 600-700 lumens. Why? Because the spherical lens gives the wildest loss of brightness when moving the lens forward. And don't forget about super cold, bluish, cyanotic light temperature and the hellish PWM shimmering in lower modes. Just don't mess with these flashlights. No matter what they promise, no matter what are they called, that is totally waste of money. But I must admit that if it costs you like $3-5, it's quite possible to buy it just to store in the glove compartment of the car as an emergency light, which is what it is. I hope that now you know how to pick an appropriate model and not waste money. And check below video, there is a list of reliable flashlights that I usually recommend. Mostly budget ones, so you can start your journey into collecting flashlights with just small expenses. Thanks for watching. There are lots of cool videos at my channel, like world's tiniest long thrower versus world's largest one. So don't forget to subscribe and click bell not to miss new videos. With best wishes, Alex.